This is blog number 3. Just sitting around today. Tomorrow I'm going to New Jersey and New York for 9 days, and I just wanted to catch up. I haven't told you guys anything really about myself or what we're doing, just in depth. But these are just blogs, so a little at a time. I thought to share a little about my testimony and maybe incorporate it into what we're doing today. And then maybe we'll walk over because Caleb's making some music and just look at that. So, back to 1996 when I got born again. You could even back up to 1991, before I got born again. First nightclub, first underground back then. They didn't talk about raves until 1992. Back then we just called them undergrounds. And I was 11 years old when I first started hearing about these undergrounds. I hung out with the younger brothers of the DJs that happened to be putting on these undergrounds. So I just so happened to hear about them when I was in junior high. And that was 26 years ago. So, it's been a while. And I believe God put those people in my life way back then at the very onset. Insomniac wasn't around. EDC wasn't around. I saw when actually EDC and Pasquale and his first events that he did back in Los Angeles when he first started doing them. He wasn't even a nightclub or anything, like a desert party that was going on back in that time. But anyways, back to 1991. The first nightclub I went to was on Sunset Strip, which is kind of funny because that's actually where we're doing our Christian nightclub now. Back in 1991 at the Coconut Teaser, they let me in this club on Sunset, and it was like La Cienega. And I walked up to the guy at the door. Now, my friend's older brother was DJing at the club, and my other friend's brother, who wasn't DJing at the club, I was with him that night. And there was only one person in the whole nightclub in 1991 that I happened to go to, and the guy inside was Jewish, had some peyotes. I don't know if you guys know what peyotes are, but he was fanning himself with a Chinese fan, and there was a few ceiling high speakers in this nightclub, and there was rice on the floor. He was just fanning himself by one of the bass drums, and they had this sugar bar, and there wasn't any alcohol actually at this club. Maybe because back then they didn't think of drugs necessarily as where the scene was going. They thought more like candy. Candy was the trip. But I remember being very young and seeing that, and it was life-changing to me. That was the first nightclub. Matter of fact, we went there 2 weeks in a row, and then it was called Technocality. That was the name of the nightclub. And then it dissipated just like any other nightclub. It lasted for about 2 weeks to a month. But I got to be a part of that. I think God put me a part of that. And then in 1992 New Year's, that was 1991, so 1992 New Year's, Knott's Berry Farm was holding what would be considered kind of like a massive, it was the biggest, matter of fact, there was one rave before then called Double Hit Mickey, and that was the first underground event before this rave happened. I'd heard of other events going on, but 1991 we went to Double Hit Mickey, who my friend's brother again was putting on. People like DJ Dan, who was it? Rodney Core, different Doc Martin kind of DJs. I don't know if you've heard of them, but 1992 New Year's, we had me and my friend went to this Knott's Berry Farm event, and there was every DJ that was ever around. That was like every DJ in California was at this event, and they did like 3 stages. And I can remember there just being a bunch of people. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but God put me there at the very first pioneering of even that underground scene. That I believe that event was ended up. The name of that event was K-Rave for Knott's Berry Farm, K-Rave. And from then, at least in California, I believe that the name Rave, I just, because these undergrounds were so new, I just kept calling them raves from then on. But they were, nobody even took that name for a while. I mean, I was just calling to my friends, raves, let's go to this rave, let's go to this rave. And eventually the name stuck for raves. And that's why I named my ministry Jesus Rave after all these years, because why not rave for Jesus? And that's just the very onset. I mean, I raved for 4.5 years, 91 to 96. So, well, New Year's 96, I got born again. But that's just a little of, I mean, I don't want to make this video too long, but that's just a little of very, 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 very onset of how God brought me into this scene and what we're doing now, which is new and still yet underground in a sense of subculture. But I like that because I've seen the underground grow up into what it is now, and I believe that this culture for Jesus can rise up and take its place, and it's very small, and it's growing a lot slower than I saw the underground scene grow in the world. But that doesn't mean, and that is not to say that there's not potential for miracles and exponential growth, and God's in control because it all belongs to Him. And again, we're just on the onset of this thing. So that's just a little of my testimony. I'm not even getting into all of it because it would take me 5 years to talk about one night that I had in some kind of revelation that happened to me in a born again experience, and how God has brought me to where He is. But without going into too much of that, let's see. We're still on Sunset. We're going to be doing more events there. We have other people that are going to be helping us, and we're going to have greater growth. This is Caleb, just messing around. The Spirit of the Lord.